Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. Apologies for the lack of live stream over the last couple of days or so. I've been incredibly busy with various different things in life and unfortunately have not been able to find the time to sit down and have a little chat. Nothing massive has gone on. Over the course of the last couple of days, there have been a couple of rumours regarding potential investors into Everton Football Club, which we will touch on over the course of the next couple of days in different videos. However, nothing really of any real note, other than obviously the win against Arsenal on Saturday afternoon, the small matter of Everton picking up our first 3 points since October against the current league leaders, which of course was something that, let's be honest, we all seen coming, didn't we? Because it's the most Everton thing you could have ever imagined in your life. Now, let's hope that the most Everton thing you could ever imagine in your life continues this Monday night, and Everton go and make it 6 points out of 6 against Liverpool in the Merseyside Derby. This is the game preview: Liverpool versus Everton, Merseyside Derby, Monday evening, of course. Sean Dyche's first taste of away football as the Everton manager, and what a taste of away football it is, going to a Liverpool side who at the moment are not in great form. I think it's fair to say. Look, I don't really want to play into this narrative of that they're absolutely awful and they're the worst team ever. And, you know, if you listen to some of their fans, you'd think that they were, in a relegation battle and it couldn't get any worse and everything, there's a massive fire going on and nobody knows how to put it out and this, that and the other. The reality of the situation is, considering how good they've been, and it kills me to say it, but I will say it because it's the truth, how good they've been over the course of the last, 4, 5, 6 years, challenging for titles, ragging Manchester City until, the last day of the season on a couple of occasions, 90 plus points in 3, 4 seasons or whatever it is, of course only winning one Premier League title, and that will always be the same, by the way, regardless of what happens with Manchester City. They will still have only ever won one Premier League title. Considering that and how how well they've played over the last 4 or 5 years, as I mentioned, to sit 10th in February really is quite a disaster. It isn't what they're making out it to be, but as always, whenever anything bad happens to Liverpool, it's always 100 times worse because it's happening to Liverpool. The reality of the situation is they're in a bad run of form. They've got various different problems at the football club, problems that I don't care to educate myself about, because I support a football club who I absolutely love. I've loved from the day I was born and will love till the day that I die, and we've got our fair share of problems, so I'm not really interested in educating myself on other clubs' problems, but I'm in full understanding that, there's different things going on at Liverpool Football Club at the moment that maybe aren't to the liking of their fan base. As I mentioned, currently sitting 10th in the Premier League, 20 games played, 8 wins, 5 draws, 7 losses during those 20 games, 29 points. They currently sit on 10th in the table. They have got a game in hand on Chelsea, who are 9th, and Villa, who are 11th. So yeah, as I said, a really poor position to find themselves in. When you put into context how good they've been over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, when you put into context the reality of the situation, it's not that bad of a position, because they're still only, a good run away from a challenge for Europe. And if Liverpool are to finish in a European position this season, I think from this point of view, were to say to any Liverpool fan, you will finish in a European place come the end of the season, I think any of them would snatch your hand off for it. But I am fully aware that within the context of the situation, they're not happy. And look, ultimately, it's a test for Sean Dyche. It's him coming up against a mid-table team, which is a change, from him coming up against the league leaders. Who'd have thought that would be the way round that it is this season? If you'd have said that to me last season, you'd have sworn it would have been the other way round. But it will of course be an extremely difficult game of football, and as I've mentioned before, I've spoken to a lot of Reds, obviously living in the city. I've got best friends that are Liverpool fans. I've got family members that are Liverpool fans. I've got colleagues. I've got people I interact with on a daily basis that support Liverpool. And as I said, a lot of them are pretty adamant that this game could certainly go in Everton's favour. Now, of course, being an Evertonian and being, the typical pessimist that I am as an Evertonian, I've battered those suggestions down quite heavily because I do think it is important for us to keep our heads. I've seen a lot over the last couple of days or so about Everton's performance against Arsenal, and don't get me wrong, I think we have to be positive, and I think that being positive and being optimistic and looking towards the future in a positive light is certainly something we should all be doing under the new manager, Sean Dyche. But I also think that there's a level to it, and I think the level of positivity is as I said, at the moment, I think we should all be confident, certainly going into this game, because as I've titled the live stream, the players have simply got to believe that they can get something out of this game, because ultimately Liverpool are a wounded soldier at the moment, and Everton have just come off the back of a really, really big, important win. However, it is, I think it is important to realise and to understand that was our first win since October, and whilst it was a brilliant win, and whilst it was under a new manager, and whilst that, as we mentioned in the game review on Monday, that the new manager bounce was more than just a stereotypical new manager bounce. Tactically, we were so much better, we were so much more organised, there was more effort, there was more determination, and I'm sure we'll see all of that in action again on Monday night. But the reality is we've still only won one game in the course of the last 3 or 4 months. And, I've seen a video on Sky Sports, I think, during the week about how Sean Dyche has transformed Everton or something like that. And I just don't agree with that yet. Because ultimately I think that as good as the performance against Arsenal was, and as much as we should praise it, and as much as these players should take confidence from that, and certainly go into this game against Liverpool thinking they can get something out of it, I don't think we should be going over the top on the situation at the club at the moment, because we still are in a very, 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 very difficult position, and a very difficult situation, and one that, we're going to need much more than one good performance and one good result to get us out of. And this game, whether the red lot of the city want to tell you how bad they are and how much they think they'll beat Everton, it's all just nonsense. It's all just reverse psychology. It's all just trying to cry it in. It's all just making sure that they get their excuses in, so that if we do win the game, they can say, well, we all told you how bad we were. We told you were going to win the game. And if we don't win the game, they can say, look at you, how bad you are. We've beaten you and we're not even in very good form. Don't listen to a word of it. It's all bollocks. You won't find many Evertonians that'll say, you'll find Blues that'll say, I'm confident we can win and I'm confident that we can get something. But you won't find many Evertonians that'll say, I'm absolutely 100% sure Liverpool will win this game of football. You won't, because the sort of, as I said, the mood at the moment has switched. But it is important to remember that this is only the start, and that this is a Merseyside derby. And Merseyside derbies, as we've seen over the years, can go either way. Now, as much as I don't 100% agree with the form goes out the window, because I do think form has a lot to do with it. I think confidence has a lot to do with it. I think situations have a lot to do with it. And I think Everton's confidence should be higher than Liverpool's at the moment, because the reality is Liverpool are coming off the back of a 3-0 defeat and various different question marks surrounding the management of players and their playing squad and their ability of their playing squad and their manager, and Everton are coming off the back of a 1-0 victory against the league leaders. And whilst there's still a ridiculous amount of questions surrounding Everton, a lot of them are pointed at the higher ups, as opposed to now the playing staff, who have just gone out and put in a really good performance, and the manager, who of course has only been here for a matter of weeks. So in terms of confidence levels, Everton should be going into this with more confidence than Liverpool, but it's at Anfield, which is ultimately a factor, because it is a factor in the same way as that when the derbies are at Goodison, it's a factor, and it will be an extremely difficult task, because we know that no matter how bad Liverpool are, no matter how flat their fan base is at times, no matter how flat the atmosphere is, no matter how bad Jurgen Klopp's excuses get, when Everton turn up at Anfield, they will turn up for it, in the same way as that no matter how bad Everton are, and no matter how bad badly informed we are, or how badly we're playing or whatever, when Liverpool turn up at Goodison, the atmosphere it'll be rocking. And I don't quite think Everton have got the squad. Some people would say, and Liverpool have turned up at Goodison and wiped the floor with Everton before. They have, and that's because they've had genuine world-class squads, and those players have just been far too good for an atmosphere to even have an effect on the outcome of the game of football. I'm not sure Everton have got that. And that's not me saying I don't think we'll get something, because I actually do think we'll get something on Monday. I really, really do. I think we'll minimum get a point, because I think Sean Dyche will set up his team to be resilient, to be hard, to be tough, to be hard work, and to battle, to throw the challenges in. I think it'll be scruffy. I think there'll be a lot of altercations. I think the managers might have an altercation. I think this will be a really, really fiery Merseyside derby, and I think that could work in Everton's favour, given Liverpool's sort of demise at the moment, if you were to call it that. But again, as I said, this will be an extremely difficult game of football, and I'm not, I hate Merseyside derbies. Anyone that's been on this channel for a number of years will know I absolutely despise Merseyside derbies. Everton could be going into this top of the league, 15 points clear, absolutely flying, unbelievable, best form of our lives, and Liverpool could be going into this rock bottom, never, not won a game all season, awful midfield, awful strike force, awful this, awful that, and I still would be absolutely shitting myself. I remember going into the Anfield derby when Carlo Ancelotti had just took over, and the confidence was flying. Carlo Ancelotti's our manager, oh my God, and it was the FA Cup, third round, was it, or fourth round, something like that, and we went into it, and Carlo would come in, and everything was looking brilliant, and this, that, and the other, and we were playing, the confidence was up, and the mood around the football club was up, and Liverpool had got into this, and they'd thrown a load of kids at it, and I remember thinking, this is it, we're going to beat Liverpool at Anfield for the first time in, the majority of my lifetime, because they've thrown the kids out, and we're in a really good way at the moment, and we lost 1-0. So it will be a difficult game, but I have got confidence that Sean Dyche will set this team up to get something out of this game. I really, really do, and I think we have to capitalise on the current state of Liverpool Football Club. We've got to pounce on it, and that's a little bit like we did this under Carlo Ancelotti in the COVID year. Obviously it's very different because there was no atmosphere at Anfield, because there was no fans in the stadium, and obviously the COVID year was a bit mad. Everybody had a great away record, and everybody had a bad home record, including Everton. But what I mean by that is we capitalised on their bad form at that time. I think they'd lost 5 home games on the spin after not losing a home game for 3 years or something, and we went there, and I remember sitting here thinking, can we carry that on? Can we effectively just put a nail in that coffin, or are we going to be the team that go there and they end up winning? And we didn't. We went there and we beat them comfortably, and it was a great win, and we were all absolutely made up. And I remember sitting on the intermatch reaction, practically in tears, saying, oh my God, we've actually gone there and done what we should have done. Now, we should go there on Monday night and should give them a real problem and should get something out of the game. Should battle with them, should fight with them, should, as I said, should get involved, should dig deep, should work hard, should give everything and get something out of that game. And if these players want to make a real impact this season, if these players really want to show that they care, if these players really want to show that they're about it, because a lot of them seem to, again, smacking the badge and giving it all that after the win the other day, and that's all well and good and that's brilliant. But if you want to show you're about it, go to Anfield on a Monday night and do it in front of them. Go and do it in front of them. And then come off and go, do you know what? Ed's in the game now, because these were the 2 games, let's not forget Arsenal and Liverpool, that we all sat here last week when Sean Dyche was announced and said these are 2 sort of not throwaway games, because no game's a throwaway game when you're in a relegation battle, but they were 2 games that I think we were all as a fan base willing to accept we probably weren't going to get anything out of, and then we were going to focus on the 4 or 5 games that obviously that followed. Well, we've already got 3 points that we didn't think we were going to get. Imagine we go out and get another 3 points. Imagine we get 6 points out of those 2 games that we didn't think we were going to get any points out of. That is all of a sudden a massive boost. A massive, massive boost. Even if we get a point, even if it's a 0-0, and I don't predict Merseyside derbies, because as I've just said, if you've been watching this channel for a long time, you'll know I despise these games of football. I hate them. I hate Merseyside derbies. Even, as I said, even if Everton were the best team in the land and Liverpool were the worst, I would hate this game of football. I hate it with every fibre of my being. I hate Merseyside derbies. But I do firmly believe we'll come away with something. And if we come away with anything, bare minimum we can come away with positively is a point. That's 4 points out of 2 games that originally, when the manager was first announced, we didn't think we were going to get anything out of. If we then can go and get 10 points out of the next 12, then all of a sudden, we're okay, and, we're looking forward rather than sort of behind us. But as I've said, this one will be, incredibly difficult. I mean, when you look at Liverpool's recent fixtures, obviously that loss to Wolves last time out, losing to Brighton in the FA Cup, away from home again, not great away from home this season. They drew with Chelsea last time out at Anfield, beat Wolves away in the FA Cup third round replay, before obviously playing Brighton. They'd lost to Brighton away 3-0 in the league, drawn with Wolves in the FA Cup, lost to Brentford in the league, beaten Leicester again at Anfield. The Brighton and Brentford defeats were away from home, beaten Villa away, obviously that European fixtures and stuff, beaten Southampton at home, fixtures like that. So away seems to be obviously their sort of issues at the moment, or the majority of their issues are coming away from home as opposed to at Anfield. Don't get me wrong, they haven't been great at Anfield either. A lot more draws than what they'd usually expect, but again, you only have to look at their playing squad, and for as much as Mohamed Salah's had a really poor season, and for as much as Darwin Núñez doesn't look like he can, he knows what foot's which, these are still players that have got more than enough talent to turn up, and when the atmosphere is on their side, and when they're in a big sort of heightened emotion game like a Merseyside Derby, can turn up. And we've seen it before, although he didn't score at Goodison. Darwin Núñez, before the Merseyside Derby at Goodison, was a player that everybody was looking at and laughing at and saying, he constantly is falling over his feet, and all of a sudden he comes to Goodison and, alright, he didn't score, but he had a shot that was absolutely fantastic, over the shoulder volley that forced Jordan Pickford into making a world class save, And Jungler's Master says, I'm not being funny or cocky, but Paul Wolves just took him to the cleaners. They absolutely did. And if Everton had no affiliation with Liverpool Football Club, and there was no rivalry, and there was nothing, this wasn't a Merseyside derby, I'd be looking at this thinking we can get at these, and I still do look at it thinking we can get at these. But I do think that whilst I don't think form goes out of the window in these fixtures, I'm not quite at that level. I'm also not at the level of believing that the occasion doesn't have an impact, because I absolutely do think the occasion has an impact. I really do. The reality is, if Liverpool go 1-0 down to Wolves away, then their atmosphere is probably flat. They're probably getting, even if they have a couple of efforts on goal, they're probably thinking, what the fuck's going on here? If Liverpool go 1-0 down to Everton at Anfield, then I'm sure that atmosphere will rise, because they'll think, we've got to get behind the players, because we've got to get something out of this game, because there's a lot more on the stakes, isn't he? There's a lot more to lose if they're to lose to Everton at Anfield than if they're to lose to Wolves away from home. So yeah, listen, we all know it will be difficult. We all know Liverpool's squad. We know their manager, and whilst they mightn't be in a good run at the moment, whilst they mightn't have have had a particularly good few weeks, they're a dangerous team. Whilst Mo Salah mightn't be having a very good season, we know he's an incredibly dangerous player. Whilst Darwin Núñez might look at times like he hasn't got any feet, he's still a dangerous player, because he's wearing a red shirt and he's coming up against Everton. And as I said, I've seen far too many Liverpool players who are absolutely atrocious at football over the years turn up in that fixture and perform. So I'm not stupid enough to sit here and go, well, he's shit and he's shite and he's this and he's that. Having said that, I am quietly confident that Everton can get something out of this game, because I don't think Sean Dyche will rise to the occasion, and I think Sean Dyche's message will be, forget the fact that it's a Merseyside derby and you're playing Liverpool, forget all of that. It's also a night game as well, which will mean the atmosphere will be enhanced, but forget all of that. You're playing a team that are wounded at the moment, that are playing poorly, that have got clear holes in their team and clear areas on the pitch that you can exploit and you can get at. Go and do it. And I think the big thing for me on Monday night is ultimately the midfield battle, because at the moment, again, our forward line is what it is. I thought Dom's performance was very good against Arsenal. I thought Dwight McNeil performed. I thought Iwobi done okay. You might see, and I think you will see Demarai Gray in this game, and I think that's probably why he was left out of Arsenal, because you'll see him in this game for the pace and the energy and stuff like that. And defensively, again, they've at the moment they've constantly chopping and changing their back line. But I think this game, and it sounds silly to say, because it's a typical footballing cliche, isn't it? And I think Dyche actually went against this and said, I think after Arsenal, he said, I wasn't too worried about the midfield. I was worried about not conceding and scoring. But I actually do think the midfield is a big looking point in this game, because the midfield has been Liverpool's kryptonite this season. Fabinho has been absolutely atrocious, and they haven't been able to form a partnership around him because of injuries. And listen, if you speak to a Liverpool fan, they'll tell you that they're the only team ever to have existed that have ever had an injury. Injuries or fitness or lack of recruitment or whatever it may be down to, Henderson's legs going or Fabinho being shite or whatever it may be. Again, wouldn't surprise me if their entire midfield turned up and played a worldie on Monday night, but that's the area of the pitch Everton should be able to get at and to exploit, because our midfield against Arsenal was absolutely incredible. And I am trying to look at this with realistic hat on, because it's not like we've just watched 6 weeks of Onana, Garner and Takori play unbelievably, and now we're at the Merseyside Derby and I'm saying our midfield's absolutely fantastic, so we should win this battle. We've seen one really good performance from them. Now, don't get me wrong, Onana's been excellent for a few weeks and Garner's had a couple of good performances, Takori not so much, but we've seen one really good, solid performance from the three of them as a partnership. Now, obviously, formation comes into play. Will Dyche go with a 5 at the back because we're away at Anfield? Will he remain with the same team? I'm not too sure on that one, but if he does remain with the 3 in midfield, which I think he should do, by the way, because as I said, that is their area on the pitch to exploit. Fabinho's been in awful form. Henderson hasn't got the legs. Milner hasn't got the legs. Other players around them are injured. Other players that are in there, might be doing well at the moment, but they're young and inexperienced. That is the area I would target. And if you could sit here to me and say, Cam, I guarantee you that Onana, Garner and Takori will all perform in exactly the same way as they did against Arsenal on Monday night against Liverpool, I would put good money on us winning this game of football, because I think that is where ultimately this game could be won and lost. And when we, again, similarly, when we won at Anfield under Carlo Ancelotti, it was the midfield that was completely out-battled, their midfield and won that battle. Even Tom Davies come on at one point and was absolutely fantastic in that game. In fact, I think Tom Davies might have started and was absolutely fantastic in that game. So, for me, I think that midfield is key. I would personally keep with the same midfield because I think the energy of the Corey, Onana and Garner will be far too much for anything that Jurgen Klopp can muster at the moment. Fabinho looks shattered, absolutely shattered. Henderson hasn't got the legs to keep up with the likes of Onana or Garner. Milner similarly. I think that midfield three could be the focal point, because if we can get at them and we can put pressure on them and we can, obviously, as Sean Dyche said before, the standard is the fight, the grit, the determination, the battle, the all of that is a standard, all of that is standard practice. But if we can actually get at them and win the ball in midfield and and pick it up and drive with it and just control the game in that manner. And I know we didn't control the game against Arsenal in terms of the possession, and I don't expect Everton to control the game in terms of the possession on Monday night either. But if we can have a more effective midfield than theirs, then I think we could be in with a real chance of not only getting something but winning this game. Ultimately, as I said, you would be silly to believe that the Liverpool performance we will see on Monday night against Everton will be the same Liverpool performances that we all watched against Wolves, or that I don't watch Liverpool, so that some of us watched against Wolves. You would be silly, because they aren't going to just sit back and, hang their heads in shame, and the crowd won't let them, Anfield won't let them walk around with their head in their hands and all of that sort of stuff on Monday night. They won't. It's as simple as that. So, yeah, it will be a task, because every one of those Liverpool players will give that extra couple of percent on the basis that it's a Merseyside derby at Anfield. But Everton have got to be able to deal with that, and I think Sean Dyche is more than experienced enough to be able to set his team up to deal with that. And he is. He's played many a times at Anfield. He's won at Anfield with Burnley, with a Burnley team that, in my opinion, was worse than this Everton team. And he's been there and he's done that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar setup to that one that he used at Burnley to beat Liverpool at Anfield, because I don't think Liverpool have massively changed since then, if I'm being honest. But this is massive. This is massive. Even if we can get a point out of this game, and I don't want to sound negative and and all of that, but if we can get a point out of this game, that's 4 points out of Liverpool and Arsenal. That'd be an unbelievable start to Sean Dyche's time as Everton manager. If we can get 6 points, then, you know, I don't even know how I'll celebrate. Well, I do, because I won't be in the country. I'm actually going away tomorrow night. But a point would be fantastic. A point would be fantastic. Anyway, let's get into the live comments before we give our predicted starting 11 and talk a little bit more about this mid-table side that we're playing on Monday night. And I will say that because it's been a long time since I've been able to refer to Liverpool as a mid-table side, so I'm just going to milk it. Bob says, pretty sure it was Dyche who stopped their massive unbeaten run at Anfield. I'm not 100% on that, but it wouldn't surprise me. The Blues says Gray would have to play behind Dom because he hasn't got the stamina or defensive ability to match to help Miko. Peter says, yeah, I'd take a point. Jungler's Master said, who in the midfield would you stick on Thiago? He receives it deep, then Sargent builds from there. Well, it would have to be Onana as the runner, wouldn't it? Because Gray would sit and do his usual job. And Decore is, you know, the one that is pushed a bit further forward, isn't he? Or certainly is given that maybe that more of a box-to-box role. So it would be Onana for me. Again, I think Onana's got the legs to be able to deal with Thiago all day, to be honest with you. I think he's much much fitter in terms of being able to get around the pitch. Michael says Everton have had half a season off. Now we're all fit and should be full of energy. Liverpool are very weak and lost ideas. Klopp looked knackered at the weekend. Come on, Blues. Interesting. The Blues says, who would you play instead of, though? Because he won't play as a second left back like McNeil did. I actually don't know whether Gray will start or whether Gray will come off the bench and we will maybe use Gray as sort of a last 20 minutes, last half an hour, you know, burst of energy to get at them when they're really tired, to be honest. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Anyway, let's get into my predicted starting 11 because why not? What's the point in wasting any further time? In goal, I'm going to go with Jordan Pickford, of course. You know, there's no reason why I wouldn't go with Jordan Pickford. He's Everton's number one. And he, again, he could be massive in this game. He was big in the Merseyside Derby at Goodison, made a couple of really, really big saves to keep it at 0-0. And again, I don't see any reason as to why he won't be big again in this one. So Jordan Pickford remains in goal. Left back. Now, this is interesting because if Everton hadn't played so well on Saturday, I'd be looking at this going, I'd have Godfrey at left back, I'd have Aldgate at right back, and I'd do that typical straight back four. I think we might have done that at Anfield when we beat them, actually, under Carlo. Straight back four, and then go from there. But Mykolenko was much, much better against Arsenal, and I don't think Sean Dyche is going to take that risk in this game. He's obviously never seen Ben Godfrey at left back. I'm sure he's aware he can play there, but I don't think that's not something you do for the first time in a Merseyside derby. So I do think it'll be Mykolenko left back. I do think it'll be Coleman at right back as well. Ultimately, Coleman's got a big part to play in this because, you know, again, as much as Liverpool's forwards haven't particularly been on form recently, Seamus has got to be up to task. He's simply got to be up to task. And then the two centre-backs, I am going to go with two centre-backs. I'm not going to go 5 at the back. I'm going to go with a 4-5-1 again because it worked. And it worked really well. And I could see him changing it. And don't get me wrong, if he goes with a 5 at the back, I wouldn't be surprised because we're playing Liverpool at Anfield and he might want Mina in there for, you know, a little bit more solidity, or he might put Ben Godfrey in there for the pace a little bit more. I don't know, but I'm just going to go with the same team that beat Arsenal because the players looked confident, they looked good. And don't get me wrong, I think tactically it'll be a little bit different on Monday night, but I don't think we should sit back. I don't. And as much as that might sound silly because we're in a relegation battle, and again, hindsight is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. And, you know, you could say to me now, well, Cam, if you're guaranteed to get a point if you sit back against these, then yeah, obviously I'd say, well, let's sit back then because we're guaranteed to get a point. So sound, we'll sit back all day. But that's not a guarantee, is it? It's not a guarantee that we get a point if we sit back. So, listen, I think we should get at them. I think if you sit back on Monday night, then that ultimately invites them on. And despite how low in confidence they are, despite how poor they're playing at the moment, despite how, bad they may be and how bad this season is for them and how much it's a crisis and all of this, that and the other that they keep telling us, if you sit back at Anfield and you say to Liverpool, right here, come at us, the crowd will lift. They'll start to get more confident. Their belief will be there. They might miss a couple of chances, but they'll just continue. They'll continue, and one of them they will take. I think the best way to attack this game is to get at them, to put it on their toes, and to do what Wolves did, to do what Brighton have done, and to do what other teams have done this season, and say, no, we're not scared of you. We're not gonna sit back and allow you to have all of the possession, because all that will do at home. Matt might work in your favour a little bit more because you're at home and a home advantage. If you sit back in a Merseyside derby against Liverpool and Anfield, their fans aren't going to be sitting there thinking, fucking hell, we've been shy for the last 3 weeks. They're just going to think, get on them, get on them, get on them, get on them. We can't do that. We've got to get at them. And I understand there's ways to do it. I understand we're also not a very good football team at the moment, despite the one win we got against Arsenal, which was brilliant. Given everything and putting it all into context over the last few weeks, we aren't in a very good position, and one win doesn't change that. But ultimately, you can't just sit back and allow this Liverpool team and give them all of the respect in the world. You can't do that, because that's not what the model to beat this Liverpool team is, to get at them, to put them under pressure, and to make them run around, make them tired. As I said, put them under a lot of pressure. That's how they crumble. Not sitting back and giving them the ball. If Wolves had to sit back and give them the ball for 90 minutes, Liverpool wouldn't have lost 3-0. And I get they were at home and it's different, and I get that. But for me, Everton, there's got to be an element of confidence. There's got to be an element of a set of bollocks. For lack of a better phrase, there's got to be an element of we can get at these. These aren't particularly good at the moment. We can get at them. So I am going to go with that back four. Tarkowski and Cody obviously in the centre. Same midfield three, Decore, Onana, Garner. As I said, I think the midfield could be a... Godfrey broke his leg when we played Chelsea at Goodison, but he didn't break his leg, he done his ankle, didn't he? Midfield three, Garner, Onana, Decore. As I've just mentioned, I think this midfield three could be the difference in Everton getting something out of this game and not getting something out of this game. Every time I speak to a Liverpool fan, or you listen to a Liverpool fan on the radio or whatever, and they speak about their problem at the moment, and this has been their overriding problem over the course of the last 12 months. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of them now if you ask them, but the overriding one that seems to be the constant is their midfield. Their lack of midfield cover, their lack of any real agility, pace in midfield, just freshness in midfield. I think, as I said, if you to ask most Liverpool fans, I think they would argue that the area of the pitch they need to address the most is that midfield. They've got Fabinho, who by all accounts has had a really poor season and not been performing to his usual level. They've got Henderson, whose legs are looking weak at the moment. Milner similarly. They've got a couple of young lads who are doing well, but they're still young and inexperienced. And we've got 3 athletes. Now again, contextually, I'm trying to remember that we haven't been very good, and the win against Arsenal was great, but it's not like these players have been unbelievable for weeks. However, the 3 most confident players to come out of that game on Saturday should be Abdoulaye Decore, Amadou Onana, and Idrissa Gana Gueye. And if the 3 of them can put in a similar performance on Monday night, and we can win that midfield battle, then I think there's no reason we don't get at least a draw. Because if we're winning that midfield battle, then we can just hold out then, and we can dictate what happens. Maybe even go on and win the game, but definitely get a point. And I think they could be pivotal. So there's Anthony in there. I'm going to go with Iwobi on the right. We haven't really got anyone else. I think he's done okay. I think his flair, his quality, his skill might be the difference between Everton creating an opportunity and then scoring a goal or not doing. So Iwobi on the right. The left, I am torn between Dwight McNeil and Damari Gray. Damari Gray for the pace on the counter, but then that would suggest that we're sitting back and we're willing to, let them come at us, and we're going to try and hit them on the counter and try and get at them that way. I'm going to go with Dwight McNeil. I thought his performance was excellent against Arsenal, and I think when a player performs like that and does really well, and it clearly is got a little bit of confidence behind him, I think it's a little bit hard to then drop him and say, right, this is a really important game, so I'm going to leave you out. I just think it's counterproductive. So, and if Damari Gray was our best player by a country, or unbelievable, he probably is our best player, but if he's unbelievable and scored every week, you'd go, fine, yeah, but he's not. So Yeah, and then maybe with the option of bringing Damari on with half an hour to go to get at them when they're tired, and then obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. So yeah, there you go. That is my predicted starting 11. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Listen, this will be a difficult game, as I mentioned. It's a Merseyside derby at Anfield. It's not going to be a walk in the park, no matter how many Liverpool fans might tell you, oh, you'll batter us because we're not very good. It's all bollocks. It's all an excuse so that if we do win, they can say, well, you can't have a go at us because we told you we weren't very good. Don't listen to a word any of them say. They talk nonsense. They talk nonsense. But no, listen, ultimately, it will be a difficult game. We know it'll be a difficult game. It's a Merseyside derby. As I said, we have to remember contextually that as good as the Arsenal win was, we've also been in awful, awful form collectively recently. And yes, it was under the previous manager, and now we've got a new manager. But that doesn't guarantee that everything is all of a sudden ultimately 100% better. Sean Dyche has got to put the work in, as have the players, and they've got to prove that. But if we can go out and get something in this game, then it would be absolutely huge. And by the way, there is no reason why we can't go out and get something out of this game. We have to be positive. And as the title reads, and I will say it again, the players have to believe. They simply must believe they can go and get something in this game, because they can. They absolutely can. Anyway, we are going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. As I said before, one thing I think this will be is a very, very physical derby. I think there'll be tackles. I think there'll be scraps. I think there'll be altercations. I think there'll be all sorts of... If you've got a spare tenner, throw it on somebody getting sent off, because that wouldn't surprise me either. But that may well suit Everton, and that may well work in Everton's favour, because it has done before. Anyway, big thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please leave a like. As I said, I am actually going away, so I'm going to Amsterdam. So I'll try and get an instant match reaction out on Monday night. If I don't, it will be on Tuesday, because I'm home on Tuesday with the player ratings. But I'll try my very best. But anyway, I'm going to try and get a video out tomorrow before I do leave, but that might be touch and go. But we'll wait and see. Big thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed it, leave a like. If you watched as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. And if you watched as a live stream, then leave your thoughts. Or big thanks for joining us, I suppose. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And we'll see you later.